All right. Good morning, everybody. Jumped in a couple of minutes early. So, 2 minutes. Hey, by the way, if you're watching this on a replay, just fast forward 2 minutes. But while you're here, hey, read a great book. I want to share it with you. It's called How to Think About AI by Richard Susskind. I believe is how you pronounce the last name. A guide, the subtitle, A Guide for the Perplexed. So it's pretty cool. It's a great book because it's not technical, but it tells you, it kind of goes into this whole thing about how to think about AI and also kind of has this way of, I guess, forecasting where the technology might be going. So, if you're into AI, by the way, if you haven't got my book, The Future of Selling, right there, you should check it out. It's called The Future of Selling, The Rise of AI Agents, which is becoming a big thing. But again, getting back to this book, what I love about this book is that it's not about how AI works, but basically what outcomes we want from AI and kind of where the future is going. So I highly recommend it. Richard Susskind, How to Think About AI. I like to try to at least read one book a month. Let me know what you guys try to read every month. All right. It's almost 8 o'clock in the morning. So let's kick this thing off. And again, this is the Monday morning sales workout. Let me go full screen here. Let me give some. And so, again, welcome to the Monday morning sales workout here for sales managers. Now, this program, I have a 52-week program. And so, for the next 52 weeks, I'll be going through the program. But if you want more information on just getting the program today, go to victorantonio.com/ Monday morning sales workout. And I'm also going to give you access to today's worksheet. So, this Monday morning sales workout is for managers to work with their sales team, something to do every Monday, so to speak, on what to work on with your sales team so you can just improve and get better. So let's kind of get into the content here. Again, I'm going to cover something today as a manager. What you can do is go to the link, again, victorantonio.com, Monday morning sales workout. Download the worksheet that'll walk you through the exercise that I'm going to walk you through today. Today, we're going to talk about the truth serum. And so if you've ever been ghosted or customers haven't gotten back to you, this might help you shorten your sales cycle. So let's get into it. Now, here's a scenario. Let's kind of paint the scenario, right? So the scenario is you had a great meeting, right? And at the end of the great meeting, it was a great presentation, great demo. You're talking to, let's say, your champion, right? There's always one person that you're connected with. And I'm framing this as more of a B2B scenario. You have a champion, you've gone into the meeting, you've done the presentation, everything's gone well. And then you're talking to your champion, you say, hey, when will you think a decision will be made? And they'll probably say something like, yeah, well, I think in the next 90 days, Victor, that's when the decision will be made. And then, you find out in 30 days that the deal was awarded to somebody else. Has that ever happened to you? Because it happened to me. I had a deal years ago. It was a big deal. It was a $1.2 million deal that I thought I had in the bag. My champion said, it's done, Victor. And then I found out through a letter that they had awarded it to somebody else. Second scenario. Again, this time the client says, again, within 90 days, we'll get back to you. And what happens is you spend the next, I'll say 90 days, just trying to get the person either back on the phone or, playing email tag or phone tag with them, and no decision is ever made. And the deal just goes away. And you're left confused because you're like, the presentation went well, the demo went well. What happened? And again, not knowing whether they're going to move forward or not really creates this anxiety within us, right? So what I want to do is introduce you something called the truth serum. It's a tactic. It's a two-part question that you're going to ask to get a more realistic expectation of when a decision will be made. Let me repeat that again. It is a two-part question strategy that will give you a realistic idea of when, if, or when a decision will be made. Here's how it works, and I want you to practice this with your sales team. Now, you first ask a general question. Again, let's go back to the scenario. Great demo, great presentation, everything went well. You're talking to your champion. Everybody else has left the room, for example. And then you say to that person, your champion, you say, general question, when will your company, when will your team, your committee, when do you think they'll make a decision? Now, your champion is going to go, and give you an answer. And the answer is going to be what he thinks or she thinks that our team or our company or our committee is going to do. And whatever date they give you, let's say that they say 90 days. Kind of stick with that example, right? The champion says, well, Victor, I think, within 90 days, we should be able to tell you something. And then you ask the follow-up question. You go from a general question to a specific question and you ask something like, let me go right here. You ask this personal question. You say, but when do you think they'll make a decision? When do you think they'll make a decision? Now, notice what I've done. I first asked a very general question. When do you think your company, your team, your committee will make a decision? Person says, I think like in 90 days you should know. And then I say personal question, ask personal questions. When do you personally think they'll make a decision? Now, what tends to happen is that you're going to get a more specific / earnest answer. Why? Because when you ask the first question, the general question, the person you're asking it to doesn't have any accountability because it's their company, their team, their committee. And as soon as I ask a specific question, but when do you personally think they'll make a decision? Now the person has to take personal ownership, if not accountability, for the decision that they'll give you, which means you'll always get a more accurate decision, I guess, date frame or time frame when you ask the more personal question. So always tee it up that way. Ask a general question first. When do you think they'll make a decision? 90 days. But when do you personally think? And the person might say, well, between you and me, I think it's going to be decided over the next 30 days. But I'm just going to say 90 days because I can't control the committee. But me personally, I think we're going to decide within 30 days. Or it could be quite the opposite. First, they say 90 days, the general question, and it goes, Victor, realistically, given all the priorities you have, I don't think we're going to make a decision this quarter. I think this is going to be in the second quarter. In other words, in let's say 180 days. Now, at least you have a realistic expectation of when that decision will be made. So if they never get back to you or don't return your calls, it's because they haven't made a decision. So again, walking out of that meeting, what you want is a realistic assessment of a date, a time frame when a decision will be made. Now, as a side note, you could use this in a B to C scenario. Let's say you're selling, residential windows, right? You can ask, and let's say you're supposed to meet with a couple, but only one person shows up. Right? So again, you're talking to, let's say, the wife, right? The wife says, I need to talk to my husband. And so you can simply ask, so when do you think you and your husband will be making a decision, get together and make a decision? You say, well, I think, within the next week. I said, but when do you personally think you'll make a decision, right? If you know that is the person who really makes a decision. Now, let's go back to a B2B example and let's do a small exercise because I want you to see how this works. And again, the big why the truth serum works as a reminder is that when you ask a general question, the person doesn't take any personal accountability or responsibility for that first answer. But as soon as you say, what do you personally think? All of a sudden, they have to take personal ownership of whatever information they give you, which is what makes this strategy very powerful. Now, here's a simple exercise. So let's say, for example, someone says, let me think about it, right? We need to think about it. We as a team need to think about it. So what do you say? You're talking to your champion, and how would you address it? How would you do it? Based on what I've shown you, how would you structure that questioning strategy? May I suggest the following? You say something like this. How long will they take? Again, ask the general question. Well, how long, again, the person says, we're going to need to think about it. And you're going to say, well, how long do you think they'll need to make a decision? Again, they, right? The team, the company, the committee, right? That's the general question. And then you ask the specific question. Well, how long do you personally think it will take them to make a decision? And you'll always get a more accurate date or time frame when that person responds. Try this. It works in general with anything, even in personal interactions. You can use this. When do you think you guys will be able to get around to, let's say, landscaping our backyard? Give you an idea, right? The person says, I think in a month. I said, when do you personally think it'll happen? He says, well, realistically, Victor, fill in the blank. That's when it's going to happen. So again, general strategy, then get very specific. Make it general, then make it personal, and you'll always get a more accurate decision. So again, do me a favor. Go to this website, victorantonio.com/MMSW, Monday Morning Sales Workout. Download the worksheet for free. And if you have any feedback, love to know what you think about this. Let me see if I can just start jumping out of here. I'm going to wrap this up. I try to keep these Monday Morning Sales Workout short. Leave me some feedback, whether you're watching this on social media like Instagram, YouTube, or LinkedIn. Let me know what you think. Love to get your feedback. And on that note, have a great week. Take care.